The first time Heinrich Vogel cried in front of anyone, he was 73 years old, sitting in a sunlit room in Munich, wearing a perfectly pressed silk robe that cost more than most people's monthly salary. The second time he cried was because of a Filipino caregiver named Mateo, and that moment changed the last years of his life forever. Heinrich Vogel was not a man known for softness. In Germany, his name carried weight. He built a logistics empire from nothing after the reunification, turned warehouses into gold, and was famous for his discipline, precision, and emotional distance. Newspapers described him as brilliant but cold. Former employees described him as fair but terrifying. His children described him as present, but not really there. By the time illness caught up with him, Heinrich had already lost his wife, Ingrid, 5 years earlier. Her death had hollowed out the house more than he would ever admit. He kept everything exactly the same, her teacups untouched, her scarf still hanging by the door, but he never talked about her. Grief, to him, was something handled privately, efficiently, and without witnesses. When his doctors told him he needed full-time assistance, Heinrich resisted. He didn't want strangers in his home. He didn't want to feel weak. He certainly didn't want someone watching him struggle to stand or reminding him to take pills. But his body was no longer listening to his pride. An agency was hired. German caregivers came first. They were professional, polite, distant. They did their jobs well, but Heinrich felt like a task on a checklist. No one stayed long. Some found him too demanding. Others felt intimidated by the silence in the house. Then one afternoon, a man with warm brown eyes, neatly combed hair, and a soft accent walked into the living room and bowed his head slightly. "Good afternoon, sir. My name is Mateo. I am from the Philippines." Heinrich barely looked up. "How long?" The agency manager hesitated. "He's on a 3-month contract to start." Heinrich nodded once. "We'll see." Mateo smiled, not the forced kind, but a gentle one that seemed to reach his eyes. "I hope I can help make your days easier, sir." Heinrich didn't respond. The first few days passed quietly. Mateo learned Heinrich's routines without being told. He noticed which mug Heinrich preferred. He learned how he liked his breakfast simple, always the same, no unnecessary conversation. Mateo never hovered, never rushed him, and never treated him like glass. But there was something different. Mateo spoke to him. Not in the polite, clinical way Heinrich was used to, but like a human being speaking to another human being. He would say things like, "The weather is nice today, sir. It reminds me of mornings back home," or "I made the tea a little stronger today. Let me know if it's too much." At first, Heinrich found it irritating, then unfamiliar. One morning, Heinrich struggled to button his shirt. His fingers trembled, betraying him. He felt the familiar heat of frustration rise in his chest. "I can do it," Heinrich snapped when Mateo instinctively moved closer. Mateo immediately stepped back. "Of course, sir. Take your time." There was no judgment in his voice. No pity. Just patience. Heinrich eventually succeeded, but his hands were shaking. Mateo didn't comment. Instead, he said quietly, "That was a difficult one." Buttons are very stubborn sometimes. The corners of Heinrich's mouth twitched despite himself. Weeks passed. Mateo cooked meals that reminded Heinrich of nothing he had eaten before, simple dishes with rice, soups that smelled warm and comforting. Mateo always explained what they were, not to persuade Heinrich, but to share. "This one my mother used to make when someone was sick," Mateo said once. "She believed food carries care," Heinrich scoffed. "Food is fuel," Mateo nodded. "Yes, sir." But sometimes it's also memory. That night, Heinrich dreamed of Ingrid for the first time in months. It started subtly. Mateo would hum softly while cleaning. Sometimes he talked to the houseplants, apologizing when he forgot to water them. He asked Heinrich questions, not intrusive ones, just small things. "Did you travel often when you were younger?" Or, "What kind of music do you like?" Heinrich usually answered with one word. Mateo listened anyway, as if every word mattered. One afternoon, Heinrich fell. It wasn't dramatic. He simply misjudged the distance to the chair and went down hard. The pain was sharp, humiliating. He hated that his body had betrayed him so publicly. Mateo rushed to him instantly, but his voice was calm. "Sir, don't move yet. I'm here." For the first time, Heinrich didn't snap. Mateo supported him carefully, speaking gently, never rushing, never making Heinrich feel like a burden. When Heinrich was finally seated, breathing heavily, he realized something terrifying. He wasn't angry. He was scared. Mateo handed him water. Their eyes met. For a brief moment, Heinrich saw something in Mateo's expression: concern. Yes, but also respect. Not for his wealth, not for his status. For him. That night, Heinrich spoke first. "You have family in the Philippines?" he asked quietly. Mateo smiled. "Yes, sir. My parents, my younger sister. I send what I can." "Why come here?" Heinrich asked. Mateo thought for a moment. "To help, to work, and to take care of people who need it." The words landed somewhere deep in Heinrich's chest. One evening, Heinrich noticed Mateo staring at an old photograph on the shelf, a picture of Heinrich and Ingrid on a lake, laughing. "That was my wife," Heinrich said before he could stop himself. Mateo turned. "She looks kind." "She was," Heinrich replied. His voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat. "She died." Mateo bowed his head. "I'm sorry, sir." Silence followed. A heavy one. Mateo didn't rush to fill it. "I still talk to her sometimes," Heinrich admitted suddenly. "In my head." Mateo nodded. "I think that's okay." Heinrich looked at him sharply. "You don't think it's foolish?" "No, sir," Mateo said softly. "Love doesn't disappear just because someone is gone." Something inside Heinrich broke open. Weeks later, Heinrich fell ill with a severe infection. Fever took over, blurring reality. He drifted in and out of sleep, memories mixing with dreams. In his delirium, he called out Ingrid's name. Mateo stayed by his side through the night. He cooled Heinrich's forehead, spoke to him gently, whispered reassurances Heinrich barely understood. At one point, Heinrich opened his eyes and saw Mateo sitting beside the bed, exhausted but alert. "Why are you still here?" Heinrich murmured. "You should rest." Mateo smiled tiredly. "I'm okay, sir." "You're not alone." Those words hit Heinrich harder than any diagnosis ever had. The next morning, Heinrich woke up weak, but alive. Mateo helped him sit up, adjusting the pillows with care. Suddenly, Heinrich began to shake. Mateo froze. "Sir, are you in pain?" "No," Heinrich whispered. Tears welled up in his eyes. His breathing hitched. He tried to stop it, tried to maintain control, but it was too late. Heinrich Vogel, the man who had negotiated billion-euro deals without blinking, broke down crying. Mateo didn't panic. He didn't step away. He simply placed a gentle hand on Heinrich's shoulder. Heinrich cried for Ingrid. For his children, he had never hugged enough. For the years he spent believing strength meant silence, for the fear he had carried alone. I thought I had to be strong all the time," Heinrich sobbed. Mateo's voice was steady. "Sometimes, sir, strength is letting someone see you." Heinrich wept openly, shoulders shaking, dignity forgotten. And Mateo stayed. After that day, something changed. Heinrich laughed more, spoke more. He asked Mateo about the Philippines, about fiestas, about family gatherings, about life lived closely together. "You care for your elders differently," Heinrich observed one day. Mateo nodded. "We don't see it as a burden. It's an honor." Heinrich stared out the window for a long time. Months later, when Mateo's contract was nearing its end, Heinrich felt a familiar tightness in his chest, not illness this time, but fear. "I would like you to stay," Heinrich said quietly. "Permanently, if you wish." Mateo looked surprised. "Sir, you have given me something I didn't know I had lost," Heinrich continued. "I don't want to lose it again." Mateo smiled, eyes misting. "Then I will stay, sir." In the final years of Heinrich's life, visitors noticed the change. The house felt warmer. Laughter echoed where silence once ruled. Heinrich reconnected with his children, softened by the care he had received. And whenever someone asked Heinrich what changed him, He would say simply, "A Filipino caregiver reminded me how to be human again." And every time he said it, his eyes would shine not with tears of sorrow, but with gratitude.